everybody. Well, 98 days. Can you even believe that? I think we have been considering getting into this countdown being only 2 digits so long ago that it's so unbelievable that it's just right around the corner. The world is watching. Everywhere we go and see and talk about, this is the subject that everybody is doing in these recent days. But today we want to focus on something really important, something that matters and that it's super powerful. And it's the leadership, which is also obviously shaping everything behind the scenes. And today we're going to have the opportunity to be here with 3 extraordinary women who's been helping exactly do that, to shape this World Cup and the future at its highest level. I'm going to introduce them. First up, Aubrey Walton, Executive Director of Host Cities, Commercial and Strategic Management of the FIFA World Cup 2026, overseeing commercial and operational strategies across the 11 U.S. host cities, Canada, and Mexico.
Thank you.
Round of applause.
Thank you.
Hi, Aubrey. How are you?
Thank you.
Next up is Heidi Pellerano, Chief Commercial Officer at CONCACAF, leading business development, partnerships, media distribution, and digital strategies across the Confederation. Heidi, how are you? And Janelle Prieto, Chief Marketing Community Officer for the Miami World Cup 26 Host Committee, driving marketing visions and ensuring this tournament leaves a lasting impact to the local levels. A round of applause for the 3 extraordinary women. And of course, to start setting the conversation, which is exactly what we want, I want you to be able to share something briefly about your journey, how you came to love soccer, football, deporte, these sports that we love so much, how it happened to you, Aubrey.
Absolutely. So I'm actually fairly new to the sport. My background is in NFL football. So
We love it too.
Yeah, I hope you love it. We can support each other's sports. So yeah, I previously came from the NFL. So lived in New York City, worked there for 8 years, and was doing a similar job there that I now do at FIFA World Cup. So overseeing all the host cities. And so my intro to soccer or football actually came because of the comparison between the 2 jobs, NFL and FIFA World. So I was like, oh, you know what? Maybe I try coming into football, because it is obviously the biggest sporting event that our country and ourselves will ever experience. And so it's been very entertaining, a very different business sector, I would say, compared to the NFL side, which is really US based. And then coming into soccer or football, you understand how massive and global of a sport that this is. And so it's been an amazing introduction to the sport, and I am learning day by day what the actual sport is. So business-wise, I got it.
And Heidi, for you, your story is surreal. I don't know if you all know, she was doing something completely different, and one day she decided she wanted to go to her passion, which is sports. Basketball. Now we're so lucky to have her in football. Can you stay there forever? What was your journey?
No, thank you, Carmen. And first of all, I want to thank everybody at the Telemundo team, Luis, Monica, for hosting this amazing event, and for all of you to filling out this room and wanting to listen to our perspectives. As Carmen mentioned, I'll say 2 stories very quickly. But first is my origin story for the sport of football. I think everybody has one. I grew up in Puerto Rico. I would say I'm a 70s child, and there was not as many opportunities for our sport in Puerto Rico. It was mainly played in private American schools, so I never really saw it until my mother was a college professor at the time, and we had an exchange program in Spain. So one summer I went with her, and that happened to be a World Cup year. 1986. 82? No, but it was in Mexico. It's 86. So it was a World Cup year, and I remember walking around Spain and seeing all these people with these red and yellow jerseys I've never seen before. And I was so mesmerized by what that was. So people felt so sad for me, this poor little girl from Puerto Rico that had no idea about the World Cup and football. So they all took me in, embraced me in, and made me fall in love with the sport. So when I came back to Puerto Rico, I just wanted to figure out how to find it. So that really is my origin story with the sport of football. And then to Carmen's point, my other origin story is, for those of you who don't know me, I'm an electrical engineer. I was a military consultant when I started my career working at the Pentagon. And I tell people at the wonderful age of 23, I have my midlife crisis. Why not celebrate that?
To have that.
Great age to have a midlife crisis. And I decided, you never know how much time you're going to have in this wonderful planet. So why not do something that you're extremely passionate about, no matter what people think or say. And for me, that was to work in sports. And look where it led me today.
Thank God he had that crisis. Janelle, how was your journey shaped with sports?
I think all of you were part of my journey in learning about football, because I've had the pleasure of working with everybody on this stage. And I also want to thank you all for being here. Es un placer para mí. Siempre la familia de Telemundo ha apoyado mi carrera y todo lo que he hecho. So it's a pleasure to be here with all of you. My journey, I never thought I'd be in sports. I did not grow up with sports. The closest I got to football, I have un tío que es gallego, and he'd have it in the background. And we'd be like, what is he playing back there? I was going to be a theater girl. That's what I was going to do.
Yes.
Well, no, not really fashion, but definitely theater. And my passion and the thread of my career has always been community reinvestment and working in nonprofits. And I get a call, and I was working at Jackson Memorial Hospital here in Florida, running an international, it was called International Kids Fund. And I get a call from Diageo, and everybody's like, you're going from kids to booze. But I was like, it's actually a good transition. It was, and there I really started working in the sports world with all of the brands. But my driving force was, how do I connect, the social impact that sports creates, and make that connection? And that's really when I fell in love. And then I get the call to do the Super Bowl, which was much to the chagrin of my brother-in-law. He was, he played college football, American football, and he was like, what do you know? I'm like, I'll figure it out. And it's what we always say, we got the business side of it, everything else that you figure out. And then I get a call, everybody, when we finished the Super Bowl that Aubrey and I worked on together, it was the closing of the world party, right? Because COVID came, and at least we went out with a really good party. And then everybody says, well, what do you want to do next? And I said, and no offense to the American football, I was like, I want to get into the real football. And I like to say that I manifested it a little bit, and really, I think my track record had spoken for itself at that point. And I get a call from CONCACAF, and that's where I meet Heidi, and that's where I drank the Kool-Aid. I had the opportunity to travel the region and really see the good Kool-Aid, the passion behind this sport and the power to unite people together. So, when I get the call, and I'm at CONCACAF, and they said, hey, do you want to move over to the Miami Host Committee as the CMO? I was like, and we have our boss over at CONCACAF was like, it's going to be crazy. I'm like, well, here it's crazy too. So it's going to be, and we're all going to be in the family together. But it has been incredible just to see, and it is crazy. Like every time I hear that countdown, I start sweating a little bit. But I'm also excited, for the numbers to go down so that we get kickoff. But it is just such an incredible opportunity for all of us to come together. And I think that now more than ever, there's so much division in the world. And I think this is a great opportunity to bring the temperature down, for people to kind of, come together. And what better place? I know I'm biased, but Miami is the place that we're ready to welcome the world and all the cultures that we have here. And we want everybody to feel at home. So it's just so great. And it's such an honor to have, been on this journey with all of you.
Yeah, we have. You see, that was amazing. And it's only the start, by the way. Heidi, I want to go with you now. When you think back in your path in CONCACAF, right, as a CCO, the leadership muscle that you feel that you have the need to develop to stay unstoppable throughout this journey in a male-dominated business, which one has it been?
So I've been at CONCACAF now 7 years, and I will admit it because they told me to be very honest, so I'm very honest and transparent to a fault. I felt like I moved back 20, 30 years from where I was to work full-time in the sport of football. When I walked in, I was like, oh, well, it's back to the 80s, right? Because it's a very male-dominated world. To put it in perspective, FIFA has 6 confederations and then 211 members. And then there's additional members at the confederation level that are not FIFA. So when you add it all up, there's maybe 220 some federations around the world. And FIFA has not been able to confirm this for me, but I'm pretty sure because I've traveled a lot and Janelle can back me up on that. There's no female chief commercial officer,
no.
Right? It is FIFA, right? Male, Romy, wonderful. The other 5 confederations, all male. I know them all. And I've traveled the world and met a lot of the other 211 members, and I still have not met somebody that is a female. And it's funny because even when people are purposely looking to bring women and together, they feel how that is very strong, not headwinds a little bit against it, because I remember being at an event in London and they brought all these commercial officers together and it was an idea to exchange ideas. And I sat there and the woman come to me that put it together. She's like, "I'm so sorry, Heidi." I'm like, "What?" She's like, "I just realized you're the only woman." I've said, "This is par for the course. So I'll teach these men a few things while we're at it, right?"
I'm sure you did.
So I think to answer your question, it's a little bit of the biggest muscle I would say is you have to be stubborn as shit. Sorry, you have to be stubborn as shit, right? And also know, and I say this sincerely, that you're not just defined by being a woman.
Yep.
I tell people all the time, that's one of my many characteristics, right? I was born and raised in Puerto Rico. I have Dominican parents. That is another thing that has shaped me. I'm 6 feet tall. Most people look at me and they're like, "Where did this Amazon woman come from," right? So that shapes me as well because I'm an engineer. So all of these things shape me. But I think, and that's the one thing that I always try to make sure when I go into a room, I'm not there as a woman. I'm there as a compilation of all of these experiences, of which one of them is being a woman and being not seen, not heard. I remember being one time in a meeting where I was doing a negotiation. You'll know this person, Oscar, and the person kept looking at Oscar instead of me. Oscar works for me. Oscar got so upset. He started yelling at the guy. And I'm sitting there going like, that doesn't bother me at all. He's like, "Why not?" It's like, "Because his price just went up 2x. So I think it's a little bit of that, understanding, having that comfort in your own skin, but you have to be very stubborn because I always use this analogy a little bit. Being a woman in general, working in sports, I always say you have to have a boxing mentality, especially if you're in commercial. You're going to get knocked down many, many times. But if you see a boxing match, they always want to finish the fight in their own 2 feet, right? Even if they don't win. Their determination is to finish the fight in their own 2 feet, and I think that's what I do every time. I might not win them all, but I'm certainly going to finish it standing up.
Yeah, I love that. And if we can talk from CONCACAF points of view, of course, you're the confederation organizing the World Cup. Where do you say women is making right now that biggest impact in the growth of football in general in this region, and maybe in ways that we don't get to see it, or fans don't even get to see it?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of different roles that women are playing, as you see here from an organizing perspective, but I'll speak at it from a confederation perspective. One of the biggest things that CONCACAF has really striven is unity and leveling the playing field for all. We represent 41 beautiful countries. They're not created equal, right? 3 North American, 7 Central American, 31 Caribbean. So one of our biggest thing has been, how do we create that level playing field that if you are Curaçao, the smallest island ever to qualify to a World Cup, that you have the chance to compete at that level. And a lot of times it's women like me that generate the funding to support the competitions that we run, but it's people like Cindy Cohn, who is the president of U.S. Soccer, who has been a strong advocate of unity across and making sure that the U.S. helps the rest of the confederation and really makes this a party for all. So I think there's so many different ways. I'm sure if you go behind the scenes, teams on the production, look at the team here that's going to be bringing the World Cup to the world and to the U.S. in particular. All of you are going to add, como dicen, tu granito de sal to making this a very successful World Cup. And I think, we were talking about this earlier. What I want to make sure that comes out of this, above all else, is to look around and say, women play a role across the board. Women not only belong in women's football, that's my biggest pet peeve in the world, is they belong in sports and football in general, because we are going to be the fans. We're the ones spending those very expensive World Cup tickets, right? We're the ones that are going to be watching and driving a lot of the advertising revenue that makes this all work. And we're also going to be the people working in the sport to make sure that it continues to take this wave of momentum and continues to grow the sport so it can become one of the most dominant sports in this part of the world.
I love it. Aubrey, I want to go with you now. A little bit about World Cup in 2026. We all know it's massive. We know the numbers. The biggest one yet, 48 countries, 104 games, 39 days. Like, what else can we add to the massiveness, right? I guess you have that in the back of your head. As executive director of the host cities for FIFA, you're communicating with them on a daily basis. But what does it look like culturally? Because we talk about it as a sport, right? But commercially and sport-wise, what is your point of view? How do you handle all of this?
Yeah, well, it's a lot.
You want to relax? Tell me.
I was like, I'll tell you everything. Yes, 3 countries, 16 host cities, 3 very different experiences across
The communication.
Correct. The communications, politics, financials, different business models, everything like that you are juggling every single day is so imperative to the success of the collective World Cup. So culturally, you are dealing with not only, again, more so the financial side, which I'll get into the commercial side here in a second, but you're dealing with different areas of the country, so time zones. You're dealing with beaches or mountains or the big state of Texas, which is its own kind of experience. You have LA, which is like very entertainment focused, very celebrity driven, shiny lights. Going back to Dallas and Houston, you have football, you have tailgates, you have barbecue. And then you have cities like Toronto and New York that are more international. So how do you play to the different cultures that go into those cities? It's so fascinating, the difference between each of the 16, because they are all so different. And again, Janelle can tell you more about the Miami experience.
What's your favorite?
Well,
You better say Miami.
Just say it now.
Miami. We won't tell. Nobody will tell.
but you really do have to understand the personalities of the cities.
Yeah.
I've been lucky enough with my experience prior to World Cup to be able to have these relationships built, whether it's through the Super Bowls or the NFL drafts, or through my prior experience at sports commissions, et cetera. You have these relationships with the people that are leading the cities. So when I say city, that's either like City of Miami, we'll say, or the host committees.
Okay.
And so I've been building these relationships for the last 20 years. So when I came into this job, it was very easy for me to be able to have hard conversations, to be able to negotiate different points. If I have a challenge with Miami Host Committee, I'm like, yo, Janelle, I need your help. Because Janelle and I have a relationship where we can be honest with each other and we can work through something and figure out the best mode forward from the business perspective. Whereas in other cities, maybe you don't have that because of different politics that are playing out, or the actual city side of a host committee is not playing ball game for whatever reason. There's different experiences culturally that we have had to endure, and honestly, we endure every single day that we have to troubleshoot day in and day out. And that's only the business side. That's not the fan side that then comes in for the World Cup, which changes the whole environment altogether. But the experience culturally is going to be like hands down one of the best experiences because of the personalities of the cities. Transitioning to the commercial side, like you said, my team also oversees the way that host cities are able to raise money. So in FIFA world, it gets very, very complex because you have the FIFA sponsors, and then you have an entire host city supporter program, which is its own sponsor program. And the two can't compete against each other.
Or collide.
And you have, Well,
No.
it's very, very tough for these host cities to be able to fundraise money because of all the different rules that FIFA has. So my team is day in, day out getting very, very creative on what are the different assets that cities can sell against. Who can they go talk to? When is this timeline going to happen for them to sign these agreements and then get things in action and start all the activations? So it's a very different type of model that FIFA's never done before. It is a first of its kind. There's lots of learnings that we've had, but there are also many benefits to the program as well. And so just commercially, it's a whole new opportunity for a model like this with 16 cities, 3 countries, that is going to forecast how we do it going into future World Cup years.
And you're going to have that challenge. The
Yes,
next one, by the way.
absolutely, we are.
When you think about the legacy of this World Cup in 2026, what's one of those decisions that you feel that has been made in a way that's going to leave a big impact in the long run for women and girls for the future?
Yeah, I think how I would answer that is it's truly around seeing the sport being on TV and in your face on social media for 6 weeks. It's being able to showcase to the younger generation, specifically youth soccer players, how seeing that is going to put kind of the sport on a whole different level, and to be able to showcase to the younger women that want to either play the sport or get into the business of sport that it can be done. And I think people like us doing these types of opportunities and showcasing you can do it. We have done it. We are here to help guide the way, that you can also do it too. And we hope to be alongside you guys someday to be able to talk about the next World Cup when we're all saying, you know what, 2026 World Cup really made an impact into our lives. So,
Like 82 on Heidi.
yeah, exactly.
I'm sorry, 86.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think that's the beauty of it, right? And you have to think about with our World Cups, right? We're talking about 26, but there's a Women's World Cup in 27. So this could spark, right? This could start the spark for some of these young girls. They're going to watch. And I always tell the wonderful thing about football, outside of the passion of people, it's a fun sport to watch as a kid, right? These guys score and they're doing backflips. They're sliding through the ground. Like as a kid, can you imagine? I always like, that sounds really cool. So I think it has this ability for those that haven't had the opportunity to be exposed to it, to fall in love with it. And then they're going to go through that. Like, I can play it, right? Others are going to be like, oh, look at that, because there's going to be a lot of women referees. I could be a referee. They're going to see some of the technical staff that is attending to these elite level athletes as women, and they're going to start asking questions. One of our good friends, Fernando Palomo, said this to me. Remember, we were talking about this, and he said that he's a commentator for sports, and his daughter has no interest in what he does. Zero. Until one day he was in the house and heard a female voice narrating. And then she ran into the room and started asking questions. And he's like, that's what I do for a living. But she couldn't connect, right? Because it wasn't her voice. So I think that's going to be the impact when we see Carmen talking about it, talking about these elite athletes. A lot of people are going to say, how do I become Carmen? Right? They're going to see Janelle doing media interviews around here as a host committee, and they're going to be, how do I become her? And I think that's the power of an event like this.
The exposure.
It's the exposure.
Janelle, going to you now.
Yes.
Host cities, they really connect, and that's what they want to do, right? Connect the global event to the local communities. And I know you've been doing this for a while now, but with your role, how is your team and the women in your team trying to help make this a long run thing for Miami with the World Cup?
You know, I think that we're in a very unique position. First of all, the word team is a little, I have a very small team. They're incredible, but we're very, very, very tiny. And I always like to remember, because they're like, I've been trying to reach you. I'm like 3,000 emails behind at this point. But we do have a very tiny but mighty team, and it's people that are all passionate. And what I think that people don't remember is that these are all, individuals and professionals that take a career break. If I'm asked one more time, what are you doing after this? this. I'm like, you know what I'm doing? I'm going to be on a beach in Europe, and then you can find me like in 2 months. But no, it's people that are truly passionate and come from all different sectors, and that's what it takes. You're talking about having to endure us host cities. It is so complex, and especially I think here in South Florida, there's just such a political component. Obviously, we're hearing from the federal government every day. I'm like, what's the new thing that's going to come that impacts everything we're doing? So it is very unique in terms of just, you know, where we are in the world. But I think that we're all trying to look at this with a hyper-focused lens on what makes sense for the people here, because we always say if there's going to be inconveniences, this is a paramount year in terms of sports for South Florida. I mean, we have not only it's, you know, what we have every year, which is Formula One and Miami Open, and we have NASCAR's coming back. It's literally every 2 weeks we have some sort of major event, which makes it challenging when we're talking about fundraising, especially here that it is a last-minute town. Everybody's like suddenly waking up and they're like, oh, World Cup's coming. I'm like, yes, we've been trying to tell you for a long time. And it's just so funny when I have these conversations, like, because there was a huge part of my job that's education, right? And everyone's like, oh, well, we've done Super Bowls. I mean, I heard from the grapevine when there was a little tour and presentation of the host cities trying to be a part of the bid and bring, and everybody was like, Miami, you know, with that little kind of tinge of arrogance. And we're like, we've done, you know, the record-breaking 11 Super Bowls. And I know we talked about it. We're like, these people don't realize what's coming. This is like the only way that I can describe it. It's 7 Super Bowls back to back. So every day is a huge challenge. Every day we are hit with something else. But I think what we keep our eye on the prize is that we know that this is going to be transformational for our communities. Not only I say it, I was crazy enough when I accepted the role. I said, can you give me the community and legacy piece too? And every day I'm like, well, why do I have to always be a little too ambitious? But it really is so wonderful, because for me, that's my motivator, right? Of seeing what we can do, the access that we're creating. And we had these conversations when we were in CONCACAF all the time. You know, a lot of people, they see these major projects, the Orange Bowl, everything that comes, and there's infrastructure, right? We don't have a problem with infrastructure in the US. We have a problem with access. It is a very pay-to-play system. So when we're looking at what we're doing in legacy, we are fighting against the people that want to show up and take the photo. And it's wonderful to have a pitch and, you know, and take the photo, but we are really trying to make inroads. You know, the person that runs, an incredible woman that's on my team that came from CONCACAF as well. I think that was a sore subject, and I was like, do you want to come with me? But we worked together on Bigger Game, and that was our passion. And Bigger Game was the community reinvestment platform that we worked on all together. It was like all the time trying to, what can we do to improve access, to develop the sport, to give women, and Heidi was always at the forefront. And I say this every time we're together because it's so true. I think when you lead with authenticity, that is where, that's the only reason we're surviving, I think, all of us day to day, because it is being authentic, it's being transparent. When I was laughing when you're like, I'm honest to a fault. I think we all are. But it is, it's like, what is your motivation? And, you know, the challenge for me, when I first started this, it was the same thing. I would walk into a room and people would be like, oh, señorita, can you go and get me the coffee? And I'm like, no, the meeting, you're here for a meeting with me, you know? So having to fight that, but then getting over that imposter syndrome, because when you realize, you're like, I've sat at the table with the biggest, most important people, and you're there and you're like, wow, I can do it too, you know? Because you realize that everybody's just trying to figure it out. So I think that's how we're approaching this, the legacy that we're creating, but it is also individualized of our lens of leadership, of what we add to our jobs. And what you said, the other day I went to my high school, and there were, I went to an all-girls high school, and they were all like, oh, what did you, first of all, I told them when they said my graduation year, I said, I do not identify with that year, first of all. But we talked about it, and I was like, let me save you guys, the only advice I can give you is like, let me save you years of trouble. You're going to figure it out. Have confidence in yourself. Don't change to try and fit the mold in the room. That someone that has an expectation, you know, I've never at first is you play down your femininity, you play down, you know, that essence that makes you a woman, that gives you a unique perspective. And then one day I was like, you know what, no, like I like to wear the fashionable skirt and this and that doesn't take me away from what I bring to the table and that unique perspective. So that's I think how we're all rolling, right? Every day to get through this and really be proud of what we do every single day is leading with that authenticity.
I love that. Share any leadership decision that you feel that you have had to make so far that maybe at that time was just a little bit of leap of faith, but then it just ended up being that right move that you needed to be where you are right now?
Well, do you want to know for World Cup, one of the leadership decisions I've had to make? I have always been told you have too many ideas. And I'm like, oh, what? What do you mean I have too many ideas?
Right? She's very creative.
Yeah, and I always have to work around. And sometimes it's because they're like, don't give me budget. So then I have to be extra creative. But I always kind of, I used to share my ideas with so many people. And what I've learned is to sometimes wait till you bake it and it's almost done in the oven before you share, because you know everybody comes from their own perspective. Everybody comes with their own, you know, their own life experiences, and they might not see things. And I always say. And you know, I had this moment in CONCACAF when we launched Bigger Game, and we were in SoFi Stadium in the middle of the pitch, and all the naysayers, all the guys that I love and that we worked with, but they were like, wow, she pulled it off. And we were like, yes, we pulled it off. And I think that, again, going back to not doubting what you believe in and taking a risk, and what's the worst that can happen? I'd rather be a person that takes a risk every day, that, you know, pushes through an idea that doesn't work out than someone that plays it safe and just kind of does what everything else cookie cutter. And I say it all the time. I'm like, sometimes I wake up and I'm like, you know, there's not enough hours in the day of what I want to do, but I'd rather be, you know, manic all the time and a little bit frazzled because I am pouring my heart and soul into what, and I'm like, something's going to stick, something's going to land, someone's going to say, you know, yes to that idea. So I think that motivation is, you know, the only way that you can tackle such a huge project, and that you can, you know, break through those barriers that so many people like to put in front of you.
Can I build upon that point real quickly? I think it's important because I see a lot of young faces in this crowd. So all the time people ask me, what is one of those big lessons that you learned through time? And I wanted to build upon that because it was that. You are gonna hear a lot of voices, and then you focus a lot on those voices and what they're saying. And you have to come to this point to realize, so I want to save you some time for the young people here, that those voices are not about you.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's about them.
It's projection.
Right? They're projecting their own insecurities, their own biases, etc. And then you hear it. And then it makes you question. So it's really important you listen, because there's always a lesson, right? In every comment, etc. So don't dismiss it, but also know that that is a little bit of noise. And don't let that become a guiding light in any way, shape, or form. Use it as a lesson, but know when you're hearing that kind of feedback, it's usually more about that person projecting than about you. And that's what she was saying. The doubters are there, and you have to, again, go back to that stubbornness of being able to say, I'm gonna pay attention because there could be a lesson there, but I have to believe in me that I can pull this off. And if not, I know who I can call and rely on to help me pull it off.
Have your people
I
in
can
your
build
corner,
on
right? You can build on it. Go ahead.
My turn to build. Build, but also answer the question from my own experience. So I had an aha moment where my experience at the NFL. So my role there, I had two roles: manage the host cities that are doing Super Bowls, drafts, all the international games, any NFL tentpole event, and also do all the bidding. So negotiating every single piece of a Super Bowl, every single piece of a draft, etc. I won't say the city.
Can we guess? I love
It'll
it.
give a lot of it away. It's not Miami. It's not Miami. But my team was responsible in this particular Super Bowl bid process. Usually a Super Bowl bid process takes anywhere from 6 months to a year. You're talking to the city every single day, going through every detail, every spec, every room rate, every seat in the stadium. Like you literally are the one person within the NFL who knows all the information for a Super Bowl. So working day in, day out, again, probably 6 months, it was at least 6 months went by. As we go through the process, we're at the very end of the negotiations, and what happens then is we then present to the commissioner, he signs off, and then we go into ownership meetings, and you present to the owners, and then ownership has to vote on if that particular city gets awarded the Super Bowl. So in this particular instance, we are at the owners meeting, and my team at the time was myself leading the way with 2 females on my team. The host committee was all female. When we get into the ownership room,
Oh, no.
the front table is 9 white men. Mm-hmm. It's myself, and the host committee CEO at the time is also a female and of non-American descent. So we go up there, her and I have a game plan. This is how you're going to present. This is the story we're going to tell. This is all the work that we've done with the city, all these things. That front table takes all the credit that me and her just worked on with my other 2 the last 6 months to a year. And that was the moment where I was like, you know what? I've done this long enough. So that was my aha moment where my leadership instinct at that point was like, oh my gosh, I just led a team through millions of dollars of negotiations. My counterpart on the host committee, same thing, like this is her first time running a Super Bowl. She's taking direction from myself. We are in this together. The team is behind us. All these things are like coming to the forefront in this moment. And it's like the commissioner gets up. Again, I have a very good relationship with the commissioner, but in this moment I was like, oh my goodness. All you have to say is thank you so much to Aubrey and her team and to the host city CEO for getting us to this point. You spent so much time on this.
What did he say? Oh my God. Investor now.
But again, it's moments like that where it's almost like a wake-up call. I loved my time at the NFL. I will never speak poorly of it. But that was a moment where I was like, you know what? I have so much more to offer. And to your point, you work your tail off in this industry, especially as a female, to get noticed. You're doing the unsung hero type work day in, day out. You are rarely recognized. And you just know, to what Heidi was saying, you have to have the confidence to be able to believe in yourself and your teammates, to be able to say, you know what? I have so much more to offer. This is what I want to be doing. We did the NFL draft in Kansas City, and then my phone rang with FIFA saying, come do the World Cup. So again, after that happened, I was like, you know what? I am way more open to now leaving and moving to something else that now, today, is the biggest event in the sporting industry for, that we will ever see. And it's just kind of one of those moments where you're like, you know what? I believed in myself, my teammates believed in me, and now I'm doing the same thing to them now that I'm in this leadership role, saying, you can do anything that you guys put your minds to, as long as you have kindness, you respect people, you work hard, you aim high, all these things, and you can do it. So don't ever tell anyone. Keep shining your light.
And I think that's exactly why we're unstoppable. And being unstoppable doesn't mean that nobody's trying to stop us. They're trying every single day. It's just us not giving away and letting anybody stop us. Talking about women's in sports in women, Janelle and Heidi, we've talked about this a long time, and we know that there's been a growth, but at the end of the day, there's still so much more to be done, and we think about it every day. In 2024, there was a mark broken for $1 billion in revenue. 2025 was 2.35. It's going forward, that's for sure, but not even barely enough where it should be. So I have two questions for the three of you. What do you think is making it impossible for everybody to ignore sports and women together nowadays? And the other one, what are these roles of leaders like you making the difference? How do you put them together?
No. I can kick it off. I mean, I've had this conversation with my leadership as well. So there's something that happens in our world, right? Especially football, this football. It's almost like there's this unwritten set of rules, but you don't get the playbook. Right? So a lot of times you come in and they're like, well, you just don't understand. Right? And I said, well, I'm a pretty smart person.
Condescendent.
Right? Like,
try to explain.
Like, I don't want to be an ass. I worked at NASA. You tell me what it is that I don't understand. Right? So I've had this conversation with my president to say, and he laughs, and he is a very a supportive man and an ally in many, many ways, where I think this is how, no offense to the men in the group, because I know many of the men here and how wonderful they all are. It's that's how they keep the game to themselves, right? Power is intoxicating. Access is intoxicating, and I see it, right? Like, I hear the stories. Imagine for a lot of people that grow up loving the sport, and now they're here at a World Cup, hanging out at the hospitality suite back in the day with Pelé, Maradona, this, right? Like, it's very intoxicating. Why would you let that go? So therefore, that's why this playbook, it's kept a little bit tight. Right? So because, and it's important, and I get it, but it's our job to really work with those men to make them see it, because sometimes they don't see it, right? It's just they're not doing it on purpose, right? That's the one thing I always say, they're not doing it on purpose. I don't think they recognize it. So it's our job to gently pull them aside and say, hey, FYI, I don't know if you noticed this or all that. And I did say, you know what, help me understand the playbook, because I'm going to be a better employee for you if you help me understand the playbook. You know, and I love this. I went to an event one time, and one of the person said this, and I'm like, I love it, and I'm going to steal it. Is a lot of times what I think the attitude is that there's a cake, and there's only limited pieces of the cake, and we can't share it. What we need to do as women is show them that we're here to make the cake bigger. And then everybody can have a slice. And I think that's a lot of the attitude that we have to come in and help people understand that we can construct something together where everybody has an opportunity, and it's not like it's you or me, right? It's not Survivor or any other game, right? It's an opportunity for us to all contribute and expand, but you have to do that, and you have to find a way to subtly do that. You know, we always talked about, you know, constructive, radical candor, right? And that radical candor is about taking somebody because you care and you share that perspective, but you do it in a professional way where you respect their position, but also help them see maybe things that they're not seeing. And if you do it in the right way, I think they recognize it and they'll be more conscious about it in the next setting.
That is true. Janelle, for you?
You know, I always, I love politics. Well, that's a weird thing to say nowadays, but not that I love politics. I like to study people, and I think that goes back from when I did theater and I wanted to be, I always looked at, you know, and again, what are the motivations of people? And I think about that every time I meet someone new. And not in a way of trying to, you know, put them in a box or whatever, but what motivates people? And many times it was hard for me, right? Because I'm like, oh, what motivates me is that I want to do great things and I want to help other people, whatever. And some people that would come into my path, and the reality was like, I really don't care about your little program that's about helping kids. What I care about is that I need to sell, you know, 25 cases of Johnny Walker. And at first I was like, but what do you mean you don't care about the kids in the favelas or whatever? But that's when I had to learn that if you can appeal and understand what people's motivations are, you can unlock a lot of doors, right? And I say that because as I study people, and I study and looking at what's happening in society, right? Women are, if they're choosing to get married, it's much older. Their buying power is, you know, through the roof when you're looking at women because they're choosing to delay either having a family or getting married. And I think that women are waking up to just the power of sports. And then I think whenever you have investment and you have now more viewership and you have these women and I think now you see it during the Olympics, right? Mm-hmm. You have these incredible athletes that are also mothers and they're also doing it all. And I think that's what's so, and I want to say that I tried out for every sport. I just didn't make any, okay? I didn't make any, but I tried. And then I'd host the after party. I'd be like, Mom, can I bring everybody home? So for me, it was about community even back then. But I think that's what we're seeing in the trends of, that women are getting more into sports. Women are the decision makers of households. They're the ones that are making the economic decisions. And I think where the money goes, that's where the brands follow. Mm-hmm. And that's where we are seeing that investment. So for me, it's so exciting because, like I said before, I drank the Kool-Aid. I saw the power of this. Now it's so enjoyable to go to a match, to go see these incredible women playing. And I think it was, I don't know if it was Nike or who it was that did a campaign. Remember that they blurred out the faces of the players? Yeah. And everybody's like, what an incredible.
And then
it ended up being women. Yeah. And I thought that was so powerful.
They did close-ups.
Yes, they did the close-ups. And so again, I just think that, everything is influenced by society and the trends and the direction that we're going in. So to me, that's the silver lining when there's a lot of, chaotic things happening in the world, to see that, this independence is bringing this new vigor to women's sports. It's amazing. And I think, remember when we did something, and I always say this story because it was so minimal, but we did a project, I think it was called Project Sports Bra, right?
The Sports Bra Project.
The Sports Bra Project. And I remember blowing people's minds when I said, when I would tell them about this program. And Heidi was the one that came to me, and I was like, oh my gosh, that's so cool. That there's girls that don't play the sport because they don't have access to a sports bra. Right? And it's these small things that you don't think about that create these barriers for play. So to be able to bring to the, and that's what I say about the World Cup. Everybody's like, oh, what do you want to do? And I'm like, no, we're a platform. We're gone. You guys are the legacy. CONCACAF, having Inter Miami here, incredible. Yesterday they, named their stadium. That is the future. And I just think that this is a platform for the people that are doing incredible work already for us to amplify what they're doing, because we'll come and go. The only thing that I say that is super, super cool is that we will be a part of people's core memories. That they will be able to sit and watch a match with their grandparents or something. And I think there's going to be these moments. And that for me is so special to be a part of that and hope to shape it.
Yeah, I'm going to build a little bit off of that Olympics piece, because when you asked the question, I was going more like influencer side, which I think is very important. So think of the Caitlin Clarks and what she's done for basketball. Think of Ilona Maher, what a rock star. Serena Williams with tennis, all these individual female powerhouses that are just consistently having that voice on behalf of all of us in this industry. It's not only that, but it's also the broadcasters that are giving that piece to the female audience, which I think is making an abundant amount of progress for women in sports. Janelle, when you were talking about the sports bra example, my head went to, I think it was Angel City FC, where they signed the first, was it Tampax?
Yeah.
Which I was like, I don't know if I should bring this up, but to me, that was so monumental because you are truly being very directive towards the female audience and women's sports specifically, that it showcases that sponsorship is even looking at it that way now, which hasn't been done in a long time. And so I think that, to me, is where my head went in this, where we have to get multiple avenues of the business on board and, to your point, continually support each other and provide pathways for each other for these big things to happen, for us to all collectively be successful.
Girls, we're gonna open the mic now. So we're gonna allow some questions. Let's see who's gonna be the first one.
We couldn't talk for an hour.
I told you, there was not gonna be any problem. Anybody wants to ask a question?
They all do.
Come on, don't be
There
shy.
you go.
I see one over
Oh,
there.
of course.
Hi, everyone. Well, I have a question. Now that you've gone through your journey and everything, what will be like an advice or some few words that you will give your own self, you know, when you just started in the sports world or when you were in your 20s and your younger self?
Great question.
Buckle up.
Yeah.
No, I think what I would say is, and what I normally say when this question is asked, I think it's so important. When you're invited to a meeting, make sure you sit at the table. Mm-hmm. Too many of us, and I was guilty of it too in my younger years, you sit in the second row or you sit away from the table. No, sit at the table. You are meant to be in that meeting. If you have an idea, voice it. Use your voice. If you don't use your voice, you are not going to get anywhere. Mm-hmm. So do that, number one, but also have the confidence in yourself. You are the driver of your life. Mm-hmm. You are responsible for how your life ends up. If something excites you, pay attention to that. You have the passion. Success is built on passion. Use that, take advantage of that, and make sure that you are truly being honest with yourself and what you want to do in life, because you are the only person that's going to get you there. Rely on the people that are going to help you, because there's going to be a ton of them, but your inner dialogue is the one that's going to get you to the places that you want to be, so listen to it.
Lovely. Janelle? Oh, or Heidi?
No?
No, I read this quote, and I think I'm trying to hold on to like hope every day and read motivational quotes to get me through everything. But I read this quote, and it was, because you said passion, and sometimes it comes off as cliche, but it's really true. And this quote said, you come into this life with nothing, you spend it chasing everything, and then you leave with nothing. And I don't know why it has stuck with me, and it's so true. One, I think that it's very important to chase your passion and to make it a reality and focus on, I always say I'd rather do a few things really well than to do a bunch of things that it kind of like doesn't land, right? So I wake up every day, and if I feel overwhelmed because there's so much to do and you know, you want to tackle so many different things, I say, what is it that's going to really move the needle? And I think that in this world of sports, that it can be very overwhelming. It's 24/7, nonstop. I think it's important to choose what are those little things that are going to move the needle, that it's going to bring you satisfaction, it's going to bring you joy, you're going to feel a sense of ownership of it. So my advice would be that. Don't try and do it all. I always say, I told this to my intern the other day, because she was like, you know, I said, you have to, I go, take a lesson from me. Everybody knows that I could do it all. You should know how to do it all, but don't let everybody know that you can do it all, right? Because then that's how you end up getting called and sometimes being a little abused because you're asked to do it all. But really understand what everybody does in the room. And again, observe, listen. How do people that are the ones that have the loudest voice? Sometimes it's not the loudest voice, it's the people that have a quieter voice, but they're the ones that are making, you know, they're pulling the strings in the end. But so know how to do it all, but just focus on what is going to move the needle and bring you passion. And I think that for me, I tried to do everything all the time. And I had to take a step back. And I think that's what I tell my younger self, like, it's okay, calm down. Like, you're gonna be okay. You're gonna figure this out. And again, if you surround yourself by people that are supportive, and you know, that's one of the most beautiful things. Sometimes everybody's always like, oh, I wanna introduce you. I'm like, I'm good, I don't need to meet anybody else. But I grew up in Miami, so we're all so connected. But it really is true, like, find your people that you can pick up the phone. Like, I feel like everybody on this couch, I can pick up the phone and say, like, look, I need help, do you think? And I think that's the key of, you know, really having a successful career and feeling fulfilled, of kind of having your little tribe around you, that there's no competition, it's just support.
Since we're giving the signal before the music turns on, thank you, Unstoppable Woman Fabiola, for the question, and good friend. I would say very quickly, enjoy the moment.
Yeah.
That's the one thing. It's a journey, and you're going to do a million things. You're going to have a lot of heartache, but find those spaces to stop and enjoy the moment, right? Just stop and enjoy the moment. I tell people, you get to work at Telemundo, man. We get to work in sports. How crazy is that? Just think about that. How crazy is that? Right? We get people doing our hair and makeup, by the way. But this is not the person that showed up here today. This is a completely new person. But that's the moment. Stop, because you're always thinking about, especially young people, what's next? How do I get promoted?
Yeah.
Stop. Enjoy the moment and see how lucky you are that you get to work in an organization like Telemundo, that you get to be around sports, and you get to be around a room with a chairman like Luis, with somebody like Monica leading the way. Enjoy the moment.
Awesome.
Well, before we close, I want to say something also. A few years back, I had a really low in my life, and I get to meet these two ladies who are here. And I wanted to say it because these conversations sparks changes in life. We have no idea. She had a podcast. She didn't even knew me. And I heard it, and I fell in love with her story and what she said. And life put me a few months later meeting her, and every time I get to see her, I just absorb it. Like, touch me so I can get all your knowledge and everything. So this conversation, somebody's gonna listen to it, and I hope it resonated with you, and something clicks, change, and we keep being unstoppable, because that's the only way we can get out of this world happy, being unstoppable. So thank you. Thank you.